Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
This just doesn't ever get less annoying. And
oh, it's like 400 episodes now? More than 400. All right, right around there. Who knows?
And this episode, I think, has some pretty interesting stuff. Mine is more depressing, if anything. And what's yours?
Mine's not really depressing. I'm going to be going over EVPs again. So this episode's topic is going to be called EVP 2, covering it from a different angle this time. So I wouldn't say my part of the episode's depressing. So
you're the upper. I'll be the downer.
All right, that's fine.
We'll be your drugs today.
Wow.
Is that bad to say? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, that crappy vampire movie that everyone seems to like. He's like, you're my own personal brand of heroin. And people seem to think that's romantic, so who the hell knows nowadays?
That's not a Robert Pattinson voice.
That's my Robert Pattinson voice for that movie, because I hate those movies so much.
All right.
So much. So what are you going to be covering? All you've said is that yours is depressing.
Oh, I'm going to be covering, like, different instances of, like, Final Destination, pretty much. But this particular episode, I'm going to be focusing around planes and automobiles.
Okay.
No
cool.
trains.
I think as soon as you say that, everyone gets the picture of a bunch of logs being pulled on the back of a fucking trailer. And I've driven behind things like that in my lifetime, and definitely ever since that movie came out. And the second one's the worst, in my opinion. But that's where that's where the scene comes from, I believe, is the second one. You just don't drive behind those fucking things, because you know you're going to die. So,
all right.
Before we jump into topics, though, I do want to go ahead and say thank you to everyone who joined us on Sunday for our first ever bartending competition stream. It was wonderful. Shout out to Spooky Mom.
Sorry about the audio.
Shout out to Spooky Aunt for being our judges. Shout out to Spooky Sis, who was doing some sous chef work in the back so that we could have like lime juice and lemon juice. It was really, really fun. It was a blast.
It was fun getting to hang out with family and do something like that's silly. I definitely was really obnoxious.
Robin got kind of drunk pretty quick and was such an asshat. So, like, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to let you know who won, who didn't. So if you want to check it out, you can go over to youtube.com/Scaryish. What I will tell you about it, as far as the technical side of things, is it was the most difficult thing we've done as far as Scaryish goes regarding cameras and microphones. We had 4 wireless lavalier mics. We had 2 separate cameras. We had a bunch of stuff running at once. And then we found out at the end of the episode, or at the end of the competition, once we signed off and everything, Robin's microphone was never turned on.
Yeah.
But I kept checking the audio levels throughout the show, and I could see like, oh, okay, our microphones are coming in clear. When Robin's talking, it's going a little bit red. She's coming a little bit hot because she's a little bit drunk, and she's talking really loud. So I think my microphone was actually picking her up pretty well. But overall, little bit of an echo, which is to be expected. We're doing it in our kitchen, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like we have this wonderful studio to go in there and just take all our booze and things like that. I think it worked out really well for what it was. The audio wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It definitely wasn't what I'd like it to be, but it's a great starting point. So if we do stuff in the future, it'll be a little bit better, and it gets better and better and better as time goes on. And because we've had wonderful patrons and wonderful donations, we've been able to get the equipment to start doing stuff like this. We've done a cooking stream now. We've done a bartending competition stream. Both of those have been really, really fun. So looking forward to see what the next goal is that we set. And if we get there, what that next additional stream will be. But thank you to everyone who joined us and donated to make it possible. It was a blast. I really enjoyed it. So go over and watch that video if you're wondering who won. Not going to spoil it for you. But yeah, it was a good time.
Yes, it was a good time. It was really fun. And I would do it again. Maybe not get so drunk next time.
Fingers crossed.
And actually have my mic on.
Yeah, having the mic on would be a blast. But anyways, let's go ahead and move into topics. So Robin, go ahead and take it away.
All right, so my topic is going to be, Final Destination stuff. I know many of us have kind of grown up with this fear in the back of our minds that we could die of a freak accident at any moment. And I'm sure many of us blame that fear on these little movies that came out. The Final Destination ones.
How often do you think about freak accidents killing you?
A lot.
Is it daily?
Almost.
Every time I drive, and this is actually because I grew up near a bad area. I didn't grow up in a bad area, but I would often drive through one, and I would always think, like, what happens if a stray bullet just goes through the windshield?
That's one of the things I always think. I always get paranoid, like the car next to me is just going to shoot me for no reason. I always think that something's just going to come up like from someone's tire and just shatter my windshield or something.
When we're driving to California, there's a very steep incline and a bunch of like curves that go along with it. It's probably the most treacherous stretch of road in the trip. And every time I drive that, if there's a little bit of water, like if it's raining at all, if it's foggy, I'm like, this is how we die. Like, this is how we're going to die. And then I picture like a blowout of a tire and us going off the edge of the cliff. And it just is always present in my mind. So
I always think I'm going to get my eye poked out somehow, or like just something awful is going to happen randomly. I'm just really paranoid about that stuff. But I know I personally also can't drive behind any truck that's loaded with pipes or logs or any of that shit. Or even sometimes when I'm behind a maintenance truck and they have like the ladders and stuff strapped to it, that stuff freaks me out too. When there's a truck that has the cars loaded up onto it, I always think one of those cars is just going to come right off that truck and straight into me. I have a lot of, it's what are those fears called?
Irrational?
Yeah, it's irrational fears that you just have, and it's because I've watched way too many of these Final Destination movies multiple times.
I will say, I know I shit on Final Destination 2 already. One of the phrases that I hate hearing in movies is once and for all. And if it's not used properly, it sounds so cheesy. And I think they say it like 3 times in Final Destination 2.
I don't remember.
And Ali Larter gives the worst reading of that line, like, we need to stop this once and for all. And it sticks with me, and I hate it so much.
It hates you.
It does hate me.
All right. So, of course, there are actual true life stories of people that have died in ways that are kind of too ridiculous to be real, where you're like, what are the odds that would happen? It's like something out of Final Destination, but some of these things blew my mind, and I don't know if it's just some sixth sense of luck or fate or whatever. But like Final Destination, maybe you just can't escape death, there's nothing you can do. Once you've been on that line, it's going to happen.
Some people are just unlucky. And it's like, in this certain case, you were really, really unlucky.
Right. And it's like, maybe you escape death one day, but fate kind of finds a way sometimes.
So what you're saying is death finds a way.
Sure. Jurassic Park reference, if you guys didn't know.
Just the opposite.
Anyway, the idea of that is absolutely terrifying to me. So this one's probably going to be real depressing. And it because it revolves around like planes and cars, you might be a little triggered maybe. So I'll put that warning out there.
Flights for later this year, so I'm glad we're covering plane deaths.
I'll probably do some more Final Destination type things in the future, because there are a lot of things that have happened in the world that I find absolutely horrifying and coincidental. It's just nuts. Okay, so we're gonna start with a big hitter here. A little bit weird, but it's one of the ones that I was just like, are you freaking serious? What are the odds that would happen to this person? On July 6, 2013, Asiana Flight 214, coming from Seoul, South Korea, crashes on its final approach into San Francisco.
Landing is the thing I'm most terrified of in planes.
So, of those 307 people on board, only 3 people died.
Oh, wow.
So 3 people died. Another 187 people were injured. 49 of those 187 were seriously injured. It was actually the first fatal crash of a Boeing 777 since its introduction in 1995. I didn't realize that the 777's been around for quite a while. I know what the 777
Airbus
Max.
Whatever. The ones that like crash like 3 times, where they like take them out of circulation.
Well, they're back in circulation now.
Yeah,
so.
They've been fixed, quote unquote. I know nothing about aircraft, so.
So on this flight was a girl named Yameng Yuan, and she was a 16-year-old student. As the wreckage of the plane was burning, there was obviously going to be chaos, right? Everyone's scrambling. Those on board were running to the emergency slides. There were flight attendants that were trying to cut passengers out of their seatbelts. Like, Yuan somehow ended up on the ground 30 feet away from the plane. She somehow ended up 30 feet away from the plane. She probably got tossed, when it crashed or something like that. And she somehow survived. So she lands 30 feet away from the plane, somehow survives. She's laying there injured, and firefighters are in the area spraying fire retardant foam all over the runway. And she is curled up in the fetal position on the runway, leading those firefighters to think that she was already dead. So a coroner later determines that she had actually been alive at the time. That is until she was killed by being run over by her fire truck.
Wow.
There is video footage of the first foam truck, and it's driving away from the scene as the fire chief, Johnson, arrives. And he's looking over the area where she actually was, but she, at that point, got covered in foam. So she gets covered in this fire retardant foam. At this point, a second foam truck shows up, unaware that there is actually anybody underneath that foam, because they're just showing up, right? She's already covered. The second truck does its job, keeps spraying foam all over the wreckage, but upon backing up, runs over this girl.
Wow.
That's
so sad.
Because they don't know that she's under there. So she survives this plane crash only to be killed by sheer unlucky happenstance.
Wow.
Which is nuts. What's even more tragic is one of the other two that died in that crash was her classmate, Wang Linjia. So it's like, it really seems like Final Destination, where
because they're students,
because they're friends, right? They're classmates. What are the odds that out of the 3 people that died on that flight, 2 of them are classmates? It's just crazy to me. So the next little instance here also involves another flight. There's going to be a lot of planes, okay? A lot of planes in this one. But we're going to go further back in time. So this one dates back to 1977. So October 13th, 1977, a plane carrying 29 people, including 14 members of the University of Evansville men's basketball team, crashes soon after takeoff from Evansville Regional Airport in Evansville, Indiana. The plane had been on its way to Nashville for a game against the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders when the plane lost control. So there was one player from that team that wasn't on the plane that day. So his name was David Furr. He had actually been cut from the team due to an ankle injury.
Wow. What a lucky ankle injury.
Yeah, so ultimately had him miss that trip. Like any other sick twist of fate, 2 weeks later, he and his 16-year-old brother Byron were driving home from a holiday basketball tournament in Newton, Illinois. And they are both killed in a car accident involving a drunk driver.
That is some Final Destination shit.
So you'd think that wouldn't be something that occurs more than once, but you'd be, you know what I mean? Like, what are the odds?
I'm already creeped out how often it's happened.
Yeah, so it's crazy because it ends up like that entire basketball team died. That entire year's basketball team died. All right, so
keep it rolling.
There's more. It's just nuts how often this happens. And even in more recent times too, right? So we had that 2013 one. This next one is in 2009. So in 2009, an Italian woman named Joanna Gantheler seemed to have met a similar fate. So Joanna had been on a vacation in Brazil with her husband Kurt. They had actually missed their flight on June 1st, 2009. It was Air France 447. So because they'd arrived at the Rio de Janeiro airport late, they couldn't get onto that flight. That flight stalled and couldn't recover midair, so it ultimately crashed into the Atlantic Ocean 4 hours into their flight.
So at this point you're thinking, luckiest people on the planet, so happy we were late. Yep. Didn't get on the cursed flight.
None of those 228 passengers survived. It is the deadliest crash in the history of Air France. It is also the deadliest aviation accident involving the Airbus A330. I would have liked to have missed that flight, you know? Like what?
Yeah.
The couple was able to catch a flight home the following day, which I would have still been too scared to, you know what I mean?
I've been like, we live here now. We're never flying again.
2 weeks later, in Kufstein, Austria, Joanna dies when she swerves her car across a road into an oncoming truck. She happened to be with her husband at the time.
Oh my God.
But he survived. Even though he did survive, though, he sustained serious injuries. It's just nuts that these people, it's like, didn't die in this horrific plane accident, but died. Both of these people died in a car accident 2 weeks later. It's just crazy. It's just too coincidental, right?
It reminds me of that movie, not Final Destination. It reminds me of The Adjustment Bureau. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you get off track, someone just shows up
and puts
does
you back
something
on
to
track.
put you back on track. Yeah. It's like, ooh, you were supposed to die. You're a variant now. There, I went and brought some Loki into it as well. And it's so terrifying.
Yeah, it is terrifying. All right. So this next one is something that definitely hits me because I'm sure a lot of you out there were around for 9/11. Maybe not any of the younger peeps, but like for us, like you remember where you were. I remember where I was. And it was definitely a big day. If you're not from the U.S., 9/11, September 11th.
I think a lot of people around the world still remember 9/11 because it was just such a big thing. It was just this thing that took over the news, you know.
Oh, for a really long time.
I know there's been bigger things that have happened, you know, even in my lifetime with bigger death tolls and things like that. I think that's how a lot of folks weigh stuff. But 9/11 was pretty much a turning point for at least our generation. I think.
So September 11th, 2001 was the day where there were terrorist attacks here in the U.S. that involved planes getting flown into the World Trade Center. One of those people that were there that day was Hilda Yolanda Mayol. And that day, she was working in a restaurant on the ground floor. She was lucky that day because she was able to escape, telling death, not today. Though, like any Final Destination movie, has taught us you really can't get away from death. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So 2 months later, Mayol, 26 at the time, is heading home to the Dominican Republic with her mother and 2 children. So November 12th, 2001, she boards American Airlines Flight 587 from John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. So she boards that plane. This flight crashes into the neighborhood of Bell Harbor in Queens, New York. It takes off about 1 minute and 40 seconds after another plane had taken off. So this flight is climbing in altitude when it hits some wake turbulence that is caused by the flight before it. So it hits this turbulence. In this case, it's like a case of dominoes where like stuff kept happening one after another, and then the plane starts just falling apart. So pieces of the plane start coming off. The plane goes into a flat spin and crashes a mere few minutes after takeoff. I think they started taking off at like 9:13, and the plane crashes at like 9:17. It's nuts.
It's so scary, dude.
It is terrifying.
I hate turbulence. Flying makes me nervous. Landing makes me terrified. I can't believe we're doing this topic now that we've booked fucking flights for the rest of the year.
All 260 people on that plane, 251 passengers and 9 crew were killed in that crash, as well as 5 others on the ground due to the crash and the engines having been ripped off of the plane and landing in different places. This, of course, included Mayol. And not only did she die in this morbid twist of fate, but Ruben Rodriguez was actually returning from a 6.5-month deployment. He had just gotten back to the U.S. 2 days before that, and he was going to Santo Domingo to be with his wife and 4 children, and he also died on that flight. So this was actually the second deadliest aviation incident involving the Airbus A300, which is crazy. I didn't realize like these were some of the worst crashes possible for these airlines or these airplanes. This whole episode is definitely about morbidly strange coincidences or fated happenstances. The final one is to kind of get me off the airplane tangent because we're flying so much. I'm like, I need to not think about it. This one is more of a car-centric one, sort of. So in January 2013, which kind of takes us full circle because the first thing that I told you guys about also took place in 2013. January 2013, Jessica de Lima Roll, 21 at the time, helped organize a party for university students at the Kiss nightclub in Santa Maria, South Brazil. They were actually selling tickets to this event, so it was a big thing, right? The night of the event, as she was getting ready to leave and head for the club, her boyfriend calls her and asks her not to go. Which is weird, right?
Did he have like a bad feeling?
I don't know. She chose to listen to her boyfriend, Adriano Stefanel, and stayed home despite most of her friends having gone to the club. Her boyfriend at the time was living in a different town and was staying home. So he probably asked her like, hey, just chill at home. I'm staying at home. Let's just stay at home. Hours later, in this packed club, one of the band members that was performing that night lit a firework while on stage. This firework lit the club's foam roof on fire.
Oh my God.
So flames quickly ripped through the entire nightclub. Some people succumbed to the inhalation of the toxic fumes, while others were crushed while trying to escape. All in all, the fire left 238 people dead.
Wow, that is so many fucking people.
So 5 days later, she is traveling to the town where her boyfriend had been working in. And they plan to return 2 days later by car. So they plan to drive back 2 days later. The distance is only 82 miles. It's really not that far.
Not at all.
According to the police, the couple had only driven a few miles when the car collided head-on with a truck that killed them both.
Adjustment Bureau, I'm telling you, nudging you back on track.
All of those close calls and coincidental deaths are definitely terrifying to think about. I always wonder if there are any of you out there that have experienced stuff like that.
Well, I mean, not fully experienced something like that.
No. But, like, do you think if I had gotten on that plane, that could have been me? Or if I had actually gone to the beach that day, I could have been the one that got bit by a shark. You know what I mean? Or we were telling you guys earlier, for us, there are things that we freak out about or we think is going to happen. I know whenever I see a car accident on my way to or from work, I'm always just like, if I had left a few minutes earlier, could that have been me? Or stuff like that. So let us know. I think that'd be really interesting because we definitely have irrational fears of some things, and I'm sure a lot of you folks do too.
I haven't had anything recently. I remember back when I was younger, I went to like Walmart with my brother. I think I've told you this before. And this really, really pretty girl stopped me to talk to me. And she said she was like new to town. She had kind of a southern accent. She had just moved to the town. And she was just like wondering like what kids do for fun, what the town's like. And I was like, oh wow, like this chick legitimately stopped me because we're like the same age. And she wanted to talk to someone who was around her age. I was like, this never happens to me.
Turns out she's a serial killer.
So, like, we said goodbye and, like, go to the car. No one had cell phones at the time because we were too young, so I couldn't, like, get a number or anything like that. And plus, I wasn't even thinking that because I was still, like, super young and just, you know, little boner. And
okay.
So I get in the car and I'm telling my brother, like, it is so weird. She just stopped me to talk to me like that. And we're driving home and we see a car accident happen. And we like, kind of timed it out. We're like, had that chick not stopped me to talk to me, we would have been like right there when the car accident happened. It was multiple people that got in the accident too. So I remember that was the first time I was like, wow, that's really weird. Something that never happened and then prevented an accident. So I think there's a lot of big turning points in people's lives too, where you go back and you think, if I would have done this differently, and it's either for better or for worse, like that situation would have been completely different.
I mean, there's a whole episode of Doctor Who about it.
I mean, there's a lot of episodes of Doctor Who about it.
Yeah.
So, either way, good stuff. That was terrifying. I feel like that could almost be classified as coincidences.
Yeah.
But, like, bad coincidences.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine surviving a fucking plane crash and getting run over by a truck. My last words would be like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah, it's really... all of those things just blew my mind because these people survived or like, just... missed that horrible accident and then just died later anyway. Like that whole basketball team, that's just fuck nuts. It's crazy.
I agree. So either way, very interesting topic. Thank you for doing that.
Thanks.
And before we move on to my topic, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And we are back. So this week, I've really been thinking a lot about that goddamn Trans-Allegheny mental institution or lunatic asylum or whatever it is. Thank you for correcting me. I'm glad we can keep bringing this up so you can keep correcting my pronunciation of it. We can't find any evidence that we've covered this. I've gone through every single episode, every episode description, even anything that has a generalized topic name. I've checked all those to see if it's somehow in there. No spooky friends chimed in to tell us, hey, it was in blah, blah, blah episode, because I think it just doesn't exist. I think we've mentioned it in a different episode. Like maybe someone, while we were covering a true crime episode, was sent to this institution, but it's looking like we're going to need to actually cover this thing. However, in my research, I thought maybe I played an EVP on that EVP episode I did before, and it was from that institution. So I checked, and that's also not the case. So it is very annoying. But it did remind me when I was checking that episode that I said I would do an EVP number 2 episode way back on episode 85 when I covered EVPs for the first time. And it's been 107 episodes since then. So I think it's time we go ahead and dive back into EVPs. So strap on, spooky friends. We're going to hear some spooky shit or some super fake stuff, either way. So let's do a quick recap. EVP stands for Executive Vice President, and we'll be listening to a bunch of sound bites of the stupidest, scariest things ever said by someone with that title. Not really, but holy crap, that would be a great topic because I've met some EVPs in my time who have said some incredibly stupid things, and I would love to get them on record as having said them. The terrifying world of corporate America aside, EVP in this context stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon. An example of an EVP is a sound coming through an audio recording that captures a disembodied voice. It's typically something associated with spirits or ghosts, or sometimes they say it's a demon. And you're usually using this particular method when you're doing some sort of haunting investigation. I'm not going to give the full description and history of where EVP comes from. If you're actually into that, you can go ahead and listen to episode 85 because I do about 2 pages of a 4-page script regarding the histories of EVPs. The idea that an audio recording can capture a ghost communicating is certainly something that I can understand if people don't believe it. If it activates your skepticism, I'm right there with you. The one thing that doesn't help are the folks that pretend to hear things. You record something, you listen back, it's a bunch of static, and you just say you hear something, which I most definitely talk about in the first episode when I covered this before. Something like, did it just say kill Zach? Even though you can't hear anything like that. I really wish it did. I really wish it would. Also, they have apps on the phone now that will listen to the background noise rather than amplify it or clean it up, where it literally just tosses out words, saying this word was said in the background and you can't hear it, but your amazing phone is now this device that can pick up spirits speaking, and the phone app will let you know what they're saying. And it seems like the words that it has to choose from are all very haunting words. They're never normal words like sandwich. And it's just always something weird or creepy.
Man, the ghost wants a sandwich.
So let's break down the EVP categories because we need to remember these because I'm going to talk about them a little bit as we go forward. So there are 3 different class of EVP. Class A, which is clear and understandable. It's not like the ghost like, hey, if you could get out, that'd be great. And it comes through crystal clear. Class B is fairly loud and clear. I don't know what fairly is. It's subjective. It really shouldn't be on a scale. Possibly audible without headphones. Then Class C is very soft and indecipherable. I also note here, I think most EVPs fall into Class C. One thing I mentioned in the first episode for EVPs that I definitely want to mention again is that we, as a podcast, as a production company, whatever you want to call us, don't have any EVPs. You know, of all the episodes I've ever done, even the creepiest stuff, if there's dead air, I've never heard a voice come through no matter how loud I have it. We're not going to play an EVP that we took when we visited any haunted location. We've gone to several personally just for funsies.
We have? We've only been to one.
No, we went to the one, like the saloon or whatever, where you got scared and you made me go to the bathroom.
Oh, we didn't record anything there.
That's what I'm saying right now. Like, we've been there. We didn't get any EVPs there. We recorded some stuff when we were at the Winchester Mansion. Nothing there. So it's not like I'm going to toss some stuff out and tell you, we recorded this. It's an EVP, and you can hear the voice of a demon on it. And I'll be honest
all our
with you.
podcasts have voices of demons because we're sitting here.
Wow. I'll be honest with you. With most EVPs that I have heard, I think people are either really stretching what they're listening to or they are 100% faking it. It's either that they want to hear something or they have to because they want the views, the clicks, the ratings, whatever it comes down to. I would love to do an episode where it's us playing you a perfect example of a disembodied voice that we've taken, but we just don't have that. And I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to record something, amplify it, and then try and pretend like some other things do. Ghost Adventures. I could record dead air for like 5 minutes like I did last episode when I was like, let me just record some dead air, see if I pick anything up. Spent a bunch of time amplifying it, checking to see if there's anything coming in on different frequencies. There was nothing there. It was just background noise. That's almost certainly what would happen if I do it again. But I'll probably end this episode with like 90 minutes of dead air just in case. What I want to do with this episode isn't what I did last time where I covered the history of EVPs and then some of the bigger, more notable, more famous EVPs. I want to do what's more of an editorial review of the sorts of things you can find on the internet if you're looking for EVPs. The stuff that's out there that exists currently, and just sort of give credit to the various sites or blame depending on how these EVPs are going to come through.
I do not enjoy listening to them.
I don't really either. However, when it's something that I look up, like, and it's kind of funny because I'll get to it, but if you're looking at a haunted topic and then you see EVPs included, it's like, okay, that'll be interesting. I'm always curious whether or not they're bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what this comes down to is let's go over some EVPs from some different places you can go to on the internet, and let's just decide some different things. See what we think. The first episode, try to do the history. This time, we're going to do more of an editorial. Let's do some critiquing. As a reminder, most folks that don't buy into EVPs think that people take out of the recording what they want to hear. In most cases, they tend to take out what they have been told is on the recording. So if I were to play you something and prior to playing it, I said, this ghost says he wants a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You're going to be listening for what part of the audio says peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you know, like what's Adam talking about.
Yeah.
That's just sort of me giving you this cognitive bias before you ever take in any of the evidence. And I don't want to do that. If I were just to explain to you the setting of the audio recording in general, and then play the recording, we could all decide what we think we hear before we know what we're supposed to hear. And that's how we're going to handle this episode. Everyone except me. I'm the one writing the script. I've already listened to all of these things. After we listen to these EVPs, though, I will tell you what you were supposed to hear, and then I'll replay it.
All right.
And then you can see if your perception of it changes, or if you still think you hear the first thing that you heard. So, that's how we're going to do this. By doing this, hopefully we get an idea of what is out there that feels authentic, and what's out there that feels not so authentic is kind of the nicest way I could type it out. So that's what I put in there.
All right.
I think...
Instead of just saying fake.
Fake. Yeah. One thing I did think about, though, like ending the episode with like 90 seconds of dead air, is like, wouldn't it be fucking terrifying if something actually came through if I'm sitting here at 3 a.m. editing and I can hear like whispers in the background, like,
where it's just like
that peanut butter and jelly.
No. It's probably just like, your drinks suck.
Wow. I guess I'll find out when I edit the episode here, but now that we all know what we're talking about and the format we're going to do, let's go ahead and listen to some EVPs. And since some of you out there might be like, I really wish you would have just covered that damn lunatic asylum you've been talking about for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I don't know if we've covered it or not already, and that's what drives me nuts.
Since I've done all the research. Robin just keeps saying she doesn't think we've done it. She's been looking into it a little bit on her scripts too, but we can't find the fucking thing. But since folks might be really wishing they could hear about the Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, I actually have some EVPs for you from this lunatic asylum. So how about them apples? I've tied in two things together. So the first EVP you'll be hearing was captured by the Ghost Research Society. You can find them over at ghostresearch.org. These folks have investigated quite a few places. There's a lot of different things that you can find on their website. And I actually used to have a professor in my sophomore year who was a member of the Ghost Research Society.
What?
So I think he wound up getting kicked out and started his own thing in Northwest Indiana.
Okay.
But yeah, shout out to everyone who's a part of this and has done investigations like this. This first EVP is short. During the time the investigators spent in the asylum, they asked the spirits a lot of questions. You will hear the question on the audio Why did you do that? So what you're listening for is an answer. I'm not going to give you any of the information about what they're asking it about. We just have this sample of the question, why did you do that? And the supposed answer. Okay?
All right.
Is everyone ready?
Yep.
Let's do this.
I'm scared. Is it really loud?
No. I'm not going to have it really loud for the listeners. It shouldn't be really loud for us either.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Why would you do that?
What does it say?
What did you hear is the answer?
What?
You want me to play it one more time?
Sure.
Okay, close your eyes.
Okay.
Why would you do that?
I heard, fuck you.
Did you hear that because you just looked over and saw the name of the video?
Oh no! That's so stupid.
Yeah, the name of the video is Fuck You. So it said that the answer to this clip is actually Fuck You.
No, I literally
don't hear at all.
I heard that. Okay, but maybe because you heard it on the headphones, you hear something different. But I'm not listening to it on the headphones, right? I'm listening to it through a speaker. So maybe it's different for me. But to me, it sounds like a little girl's voice that just says "fuck you."
Some things I should point out right away. One, Robin is listening through a speaker, like she mentioned. Some of you might be listening to headphones, so it might come in a little bit clearer. I listened to these prior with my editing headphones. I tried to use the headphones and turn them up so I could listen to it. I don't hear "fuck you"
What do
from
you
this.
hear?
I just hear like, and this is the other thing I want to point out with EVPs. You just have to trust the people who recorded them, that they're not fake. That they didn't just tell someone like stand at the end of the hallway and just say "fuck you." You know, like, because you could fake these really easily.
Yeah.
I trust the people in the Ghost Research Society. I'm going to take them at face value saying that this is real, but I just don't hear that. I think it's definitely something where you hear "fuck you."
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
it sounds like to me. It sounds like a little girl just saying "fuck."
I don't really hear it. That said, the Ghost Research Society calls this one a quote-unquote true EVP because they're not using any sort of other apparatus aside from just recording the audio and then amplifying the background noise to attain the EVP. If you're using something else, like to interpret something for you, like a phone app, or what's known as a ghost box, then it's not considered a true EVP according to the Ghost Research Society. The second one we're going to do from the Lunatic Asylum is using one of those devices. We've mentioned this before, and anyone familiar with paranormal investigations will be aware, but a ghost box is essentially a device, or an app nowadays, that listens to the environment with your microphone and then kicks out words that are supposedly being said to, quote-unquote, give the spirits a voice. That's according to the Ghost Hunting Gear website I found, where they basically guarantee you all of these things work and anything you're hearing is actually coming from a disembodied spirit. So, this clip is of an investigator asking the question, what did they do to you in this cell?
The answer is also "fuck you."
Listen in and see what you think you hear. The weird noise you're going to hear in the background when it starts is the ghost box. Because if you've never heard a ghost box being used, it's like yeah, it's a bunch of weird fucking background sounds anyways, background noise anyways. So, I'm going to play this one. You all decide what you think you hear. Robin's going to decide what she thinks she hears. And then I'll tell you what you supposedly heard. All right, here we go.
What did they do to you in this cell?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
It's just like...
Yeah.
That goes along with like the distortion. What you're supposed to be hearing is the answer... murder.
There's no way you can hear that in there.
I feel like it must have been printed out somewhere or it popped up on a screen where it says they said murder, but that box does not kick out the sound murder, at least not to my ears.
To me, when it comes to a spirit box, it has to be in the same tone of voice. It can't be two sounds mixed together to make that. You know what I mean?
So now that you know what it's supposed to sound like, let's listen to it again. Let's turn up the volume on our speaker, and then you tell me if you hear murder at all.
Okay?
What did they do to you in this cell?
I just don't hear murder.
Nothing.
Don't hear it. Not at all.
Nope. Next. Next, after that bullshit, no, JK, LOL. No, it doesn't sound like anything. And I've watched a lot of paranormal TV shows, right? And I've watched a lot of paranormal videos and a lot of, them using the spirit box. And, sometimes while watching those shows and stuff, I do hear things that come across that sometimes freak me out. But that one is one of those where I'm like, I don't get it.
I usually hear disembodied voices saying murder, but it's usually my conscience and it's usually just a suggestion, and I've learned to suppress those urges.
I believe it.
So that's why I'm so familiar with that. This is not those words being said. So, all right, now I want to switch gears here. We're going to bring in some EVPs from a different group, a different place. We're going to go to investigators in Louisiana. They have posted their findings on their website as well. There are plenty more here, just like with the Ghost Research Society. So if you'd like to hear some of theirs, hit up laspirits.com. I saw laspirits.com and I thought, oh, Los Angeles. And then I got in there and was like, oh, no, it's all Louisiana. And even though LA is the city of angels, Louisiana seems like a far more haunted place to me.
Yes.
So I've chosen a couple for us to listen to. They classify their EVPs. So I didn't classify those previous two. I'd put them at B grade if I had to, class B, because it's not super clear. Okay. Maybe that second one was a C. These folks actually classify their EVPs. So you're going to get an A and then a B. That's what I'm going to play for you. And these ones are a bit creepy. I won't lie to you. And because of that, I will also remind you, we're taking it at face value because they could be fake. I'm going to play the EVP for you, and they're short. Listen to it, see what you think. And then for the listener, I'll play it twice. So I'll play it once for Robin. If she wants to hear it twice, I will. For the listener, since these are relatively short, I'll play them twice in a row. And then we'll come back and I'll give you some background on what was supposed to have been heard. And they have case files for these ones. So it's not just, hey, here's where we were at. They actually have here's what the investigation was like. And I'll give you some of those details as well. So here's the first one. There was no question that prompted this. These investigations take place. And I think they stated that they record 30 minutes of just background audio at the start or in the middle of an investigation to see if they can get EVPs, and then they review the footage after the fact.
Okay.
So we're going to listen to the first one from the LA Spirits Society or laspirits.com, and here we go. All right, what do you think you heard?
Get out of here.
Okay. So.
Is that what it says?
Let me read you what this case file says. Okay. So, this particular EVP came during an investigation on July 25th, 2008 that took place between 8 p.m. and 1 a.m. The investigation had been requested by the family who lived in this private residence due to paranormal activity like lights being flickering on and off, phones lighting up if someone was touching them randomly on their own, and an apparition being spotted by multiple folks who lived in the home. The family,
I'm scared of going to sleep after this. I hate listening to these.
The family had recently lost their teenage son, and they felt as though his spirit was still there, and that's what they were experiencing. During the night, the investigators thought they heard whispering and humming. They also observed cold spots within the home. When reviewing the footage, they found what they believed to be this EVP, and it is thought to be saying, I'm still here.
Okay, I got it close.
Yeah. So get out of here. I'm still here pretty close. Do you want me to play it one more time for you?
Nope. I'm too scared. I'm sorry. I can't handle these.
The thing about these ones is if you're listening to them with headphones, they sound very much like what they say they're supposed to sound like. To the point where I'm like, I'm not sure if I trust these. So that's the Class A one. The next one's going to be Class B. I think the other one could be Class A as well. So we only have 2 more to go. I know these are scary for you.
Sorry.
So let's go ahead and do the introduction, the general introduction. So I think when you know what's going on with a situation, especially if you know something like, oh, they had just lost their son, and you go in and you listen to an EVP, you might hear, I'm still here instead of get out of here,
Yeah.
Which is completely opposite ends of that spectrum.
Right.
Like something comforting, letting someone know I'm still here versus get the fuck out.
I'm too used to fucking demon shit, dude.
So that's why I'm very interested to hear what you folks think these things sound like. So this next one, again, from the same group, it's still another private residence within Louisiana. It is also short. Again, no questions prompting this, just taken during the recording time. discovered during post-production when reviewing audio of the EVP recording session. So let's listen to this one.
I'm so scared. I hate these. I hate these.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
To me, it sounds like what's going on here. It's like some shit like that.
What's funny is when I heard this one, I had no idea what was being said. I kept concentrating on the noise at the beginning, okay?
Yeah.
And then I realized that
it's
the noise
thing
in the
middle.
It's the thing in the middle.
Yeah.
The noise at the beginning, I think, is footsteps or something shuffling that's supposed to. The thing in the middle or near the end is what it's supposed to be. So let me give you some information on this one. This EVP, like I mentioned, comes from another private residence in Louisiana. The home in which the investigation is being performed was the site of an actual murder of the previous owner. Another home on the property was owned by the current resident, their ex-wife, who passed away. Does not state they passed away on the property. So there was a gentleman who was murdered there. There was another person who later lived there who was the previous wife of the current resident who died in a different residence, who lived in a different residence and is now dead. Okay?
Okay.
So the ex-wife ghost is said to be the most active, targeting the current resident's new wife.
Makes sense.
Ex-wife does not like that this person moved on. Investigators, again, spoke of hearing whispers in this location. They also stated that they felt footsteps walking.
Which is that,
they could
that
feel
is
the
totally,
impact.
yep.
So I'm not sure if that's what that noise is. They didn't confirm it because the name of the EVP is not footsteps. The name of the EVP is Get Out of Here.
Okay.
So that's what's apparently being said at the end of that EVP. Do you want me to play it again for you now that you know what it's supposed to say?
Well, see, I didn't want to say get out of here or anything because the first one to me sounded like get out of here.
Right?
So,
which is why I picked these two in particular, because they're so very similar. And it's like they're so very similar in what's being said, but you hear completely different things when you don't know what you're being prompted with. Because the audio samples themselves are very different. And when I listen to this, I can totally hear Get Out of Here. Like, I can hear that for sure. And it's at this point in this editorial that I have to point out, we're talking about investigators stating, hey, we're in these homes, either with the resident or by ourselves. I believe in this case, they were by themselves. The residents left. And they're telling you all these things that happened, all this activity that's kicking off. And you just got to take them at their word. Like, I got to keep mentioning this because the whole thing about Scaryish is this could all be bullshit, you know? We always give that disclaimer. It's absolutely possible. And I'm giving that especially so that Robin might be able to sleep tonight.
I'm very scared. I hate listening to EVPs. They freak me out. I don't like it.
Some of these EVPs definitely sound like someone's voice. But let's take it at face value. Like I mentioned before, let's go ahead and trust them. You may think something doesn't want you there because you're going into some sort of a murder investigation. So that might be what you take out of it. But when you're listening to it with fresh ears, you might not hear the phrase, get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
You hear like what's going on, which is again, a completely different thing. So it's hard to tell what you're hearing through pre-existing information if you have that already like built into your brain. As terrifying as it sounds, it makes more sense to send in an investigator who doesn't know anything about the home they're investigating. You know, it's like if you're going to send someone in to investigate, why send someone who already has a preconceived notion of what they're looking for? Send in someone who you're like, I know that they know what they're doing. We have a regular procedure that they're to follow, and then they can like file a report of the findings, and then, you know, we can review it and then see what happens. I should also state some of the reports written by LA Spirit folks are pretty solid. I found a couple of them that had a lot of details, but not a lot. For the most part, it's just a recap of the night's events, a few paragraphs letting you know when they started, what they heard, and there's like timestamps on a few of them. Most of them don't have it, nothing too extensive. That said, one group of investigators I have to give a shout out to, I found their website, are the folks over at PIM. PIM stands for Paranormal Investigators of Milwaukee. Particularly Noah, who's the founder and the senior lead investigator. Gravy is his name. I don't have enough good things to say about these guys. Their investigations are incredibly thorough. They don't use bullshit equipment. They have a video on YouTube. I think it's their highest viewed video where they go over the tools that they don't use and they tell you exactly why. And it was really refreshing to actually see people who are very much enthusiastic about the paranormal going out there and doing investigations that have been requested by private folks. They're not just going to haunted places and saying, like, we're going to investigate it. It sounds like people are actually reaching out to them.
That's nice.
They've had over 100 investigations
wow.
all over the Midwest. And even in that video where they say, like, don't waste your money on this. This is why we don't use it. They talk about things like spirit boxes, about how they're supposed to pick up the background noise and tell you what a spirit is saying, about how they pick up basically anything that's floating through the air, any sort of electronic background noise, anything that comes from your phone or a walkie-talkie or a nearby CB radio or any of that, and how you shouldn't waste your money, and how, like, people that pick up something on an app, it's always going to tell you there's something there. There's never a place you're going to go to where it doesn't say there's a ghost hiding in the corner or that it's picking up on a spirit's voice.
Yeah.
And they're just so incredibly fake.
I'm just terrified to go to bed now.
So many of the comments on their video talk shit about them. Like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They've clearly never investigated anything. And it's like, not only do they investigate it, but they write up a report after every single incident. It gives you a recap, or it gives you a preview basically of like what they're going to go do, the time they arrive. And then it says, like, view environment information. And when you click on that, it's this super extensive report about the time they arrived, the time they took the measurements, the weather, the temperature, the wind speed, the barometric pressure, humidity, geomagnetic fields, activity, like everything you could ever hope to see is in there. Just so you know exactly where everything was when they perform their experiments, because they're doing good science here. They don't make shit up. They treat people with respect while trying to verify the phenomena that has led them to being called there. So if you live in the Midwest and you have something happening, I would go over to their website, which is paranormalmilwaukee.com. Check it out. They have a contact us page very similar to ours. Just click on it, send them some information. I'm sure they'll have some helpful hints for you guys to investigate something yourself. And if something needs to happen where you guys need to bring someone out there, this is who I would fucking go to. If I have anyone back home who reaches out to me and says something creepy is happening, Adam, you have a show called Scaryish, can we come check it out? I'll be like, no, but I'm going to give you a website you can go to. Let me know what happens. Write me an email afterwards. So I was so impressed. And honestly, it's one of the nicest websites I've seen in a long time too. So everyone over there at PIM, you guys kick ass. They do have a few EVPs. However, their website didn't have a download option. So I was like, I'm not going to rip it off their website. They've already built it specifically to not let me download it. You know? So I was like, that's okay. And a lot of their stuff too, they have one video where they go to investigate someplace and this girl gets pushed twice. And I don't know whether or not it's real, but what I can tell you is that she's genuinely scared.
Oh, is there a video or something?
Yeah, they have a YouTube channel as well, so you can check out some of their investigations. I thought they're great, but I don't have anything specifically from them. I did want to give them a shout out. To end with the EVPs that I have, I'm going to share with you what I feel is a Class C variety EVP.
Like super shitty?
Super shitty. This is actually from a show called Spooky South Coast on AM radio. Its name even makes me feel like it wants to be, and I don't want to say the word rip off because I've never listened to the show. I don't want to be rude.
Space Ghost, Coast to Coast?
Coast to Coast AM, not Space Ghost, but Coast to Coast AM, which I used to listen to all the time. Anytime I was in the car, it was late at night, I would turn on Coast to Coast AM and listen to it.
That's a thing.
Especially for late night road trips. Me and my friend Nick going to Canada would listen to Coast to Coast. It is absolutely a thing. They talk about like conspiracy theories, aliens, UFOs, things like that. It's this really fun radio show, and we would just sit there and listen, and it's fascinating. So I'm imagining Spooky South Coast is a show that's very similar to that. So they're going to bring someone on to discuss things like EVPs, and they posted an article to their website in 2013, and it had multiple EVPs that they basically just ran around town recording stuff and posting. So the clip I'm about to play you is from Acushnet. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Acushnet, Acushnet, Massachusetts. So I'm going to play for you this sound. And I will tell you up front, this sound is very weird. Okay? It's weird. That's all I'm going to say. If you're thinking you're going to hear something that's just lame, just understand that this could freak you out too. Okay?
Okay.
So let's go ahead and listen to this one.
So this is supposed to freak me out, right?
It just is definitely very odd sounds.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Oh. You know who it sounds like? It sounds like
Poltergeist.
No, it sounds like what's her name from Legend of Zelda? Breath of the Wild. Yeah, it sounds like Midna
From Skyward
talking.
Sword.
Yep.
Or Navi, either the fairy.
It sounds more like Midna because Midna has that weird voice.
Yeah.
You know, when she talks, and it sounds like Midna.
To me, it sounds like a synthesizer with a kid yelling in the background, and then that weird feedback, like that steadily grows halfway through.
It sounds very alien.
By the way, it doesn't repeat. That wasn't it repeating. Like I had to listen to it 3 or 4 times and see the audio sample. It just cuts out, and then goes blank for like 2 seconds, and then it kicks back in, and then it's just different things. It does sound very alien. So now let me tell you about this. So this one is said to be from a private home, but it only references the town as being very haunted. A very haunted old New England town. Doesn't say anything about the home. There is supposedly a voice on this track that's speaking that I cannot make out, no matter how many fucking times I listen to this thing. Can you guess what they were trying to say based off of what you heard?
No, to me it sounded like, "Oh, Daddy, yeah."
Wow.
Like I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like
apparently what this voice is saying, according to the website, is Stitch in time saves 9.
I
don't hear that at all. It's a saying about make sure you do something now before it gets worse, because a stitch in time might take you some time, but it saves you doing 9 stitches later on in case like whatever it is gets worse, like the tear I had in my pants the other day. So we can listen to it again. I'm going to run it again for the listeners so you guys can listen to
I'm good.
Stitch in time saves 9. Robin's going to skip that. I will mark it right now so that I can drop it in one more time. See if you can hear Stitch in time saves 9.
Sounds like bullshit.
Yeah, I don't hear it whatsoever. And I think that is what this episode of EVP really shows when we're going through and taking EVPs from different parts on the internet, is that when you go into something looking to hear a certain phrase, it changes what you hear. And knowing the history of a place changes how you take it. Some folks walk into a place and just know something's off. We've given examples of realtors, real estate agents who take people to buy a house. They won't even walk into it, you know?
Yeah.
They're just like, I don't want to go in there. And like 9 times out of 10, according to my aunt, when people do that, it was because something had actually happened in the home. It had never been disclosed to them, but they're just going to walk in. They're like, you know what? Let's just look somewhere else.
How do you
find
out?
And then they look into the history and be like, oh, it looks like something actually happened here.
Wow. Okay.
So that's something that I feel like people can just sort of sense. Some people are just like that. And I don't think there's anything different about EVPs. But a lot of these societies don't take along supposed mediums. Some of them do, and some of them are like supposed mediums, where they just show up. Like, there was one case that I was reading where some lady showed up. She said there was a ghost of a little girl, that it was just being playful, and there had never been a little girl who had lived there. It was a relatively new build. There had been a murder there, but it was an older gentleman, and like no child had ever been present on the property. And so everyone's like, we don't know what the fuck this chick's talking about.
Demon.
So it was just something where I was reading through it like, I don't know if this person is just making this up for attention or if they're just not as much of a medium as they think. So
they're large.
It's also, I hate you. It's also not hard to fake stuff like this. Like that last one, it just sounds like someone tossed together some really distorted sounds and we're like, cool, it sounds good. We have someone coming in as a guest in a little bit. And they had like 13 of these things. They all sound weird. None of them sound like what they're supposed to. And it just feels like bad research or maybe fraudulent EVPs.
You know what people sound like? Kind of like when you slow down stuff.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like to me.
I agree.
They slowed something down.
Like I could chop up some horrific sounding audio and toss it up and say, hey, we have an EVP here, and let folks just listen to it and hear what they want. Or I could listen to it, and as soon as I hear something that kind of sounds like a few words, I could say I picked up an EVP and here's what it's actually saying.
Remember when Rothman did that thing?
That was
he made
so
that
funny.
Zaboomafoo video. Oh, it scared the crap out of me.
It was so funny though.
Out.
It was a video that said like EVP caught on Scaryish, and it was just like me talking about Zaboomafoo, and then it was like a picture of Zaboomafoo appearing on my shoulder, my profile picture. It was so funny.
It was terrifying.
The thing that upsets me the most about EVPs that I feel are fake is that the people that present them are exploiting the trust of the people who are listening to them. Because if I were to tell you I have an EVP and this is what I hear, you're going to want to believe I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's the general nature of human decency. You want to believe that I'm not lying to you. And, we've done this 192 episodes. We've done story times up the wazoo. We're getting up there in pasta times now. You've heard us talk to you folks for a long time. We've built up that goodwill. I feel like people that bring EVPs in and they say this is 100% legit, even though they know it's not 100%. You can't confirm the afterlife. If you could, the show wouldn't have so much suspense. And they just sort of take advantage of the people that listen to them or the people that trust them. And that's what bothers me the most. That's why I like to do the science of it, the experiment of what do you hear? Here's what someone says you're supposed to hear versus the other way around, which is, in my opinion, not the way you should do EVPs. But like I said, this isn't Ghost Adventures. I'm not going to leave an EVP at the end that I just sort of cooked up, but I am going to go ahead and leave some open air. Let's just say for 30 seconds. 90 seconds is a long time. So you all let me know what you hear. Rob and I do this thing at the beginning of the show where we do 30 seconds of silence so I can get a baseline of the background noise. We're going to do another 30 seconds of silence, and I won't take anything out of it, and you all can see if you hear anything in the background, which I will obviously hear when I'm editing this.
Mouse sounds.
And we'll just go from there, and at 30 seconds, we're going to jump back in and just do the outro. So here we go. 30 seconds of silence to end EVP2.
Yeah. Can I get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, with no crust, cut into triangles, and, a side of a car extended warranty. Don't forget about that. It's really important. You seem to be ignoring those functions. Thanks.
So that's everything we have for episode 192. If any of you have any topics you would like to send to us that you would like read on the Storytime episodes, please feel free to do so. You can send anything that's paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, coincidental, true crime, extraterrestrial, or just something that scared the dickens out of you that turned out to be nothing at all. If you have EVPs, I suppose you can send them our way as well. Robin will not want to listen to them, but
no,
I guess I will do that. Please don't send me a bunch of bullshit EVPs because they will not make the show. If I look into them, I'm like, these are clearly fake. But if you have something you would like to send that you would like shared, email storytime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us. Robin's going to have trouble sleeping tonight. You can also go to our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod. And Instagram is @scarishpodcast. We would love to hear from you. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. So tiers start at $1, and at $1 you get ad-free episodes. There's physical merch tiers as well. If you're not into the whole monthly donation type thing, you can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. Those are one-time donations, and all your donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup and kind of sponsor drinking competitions. Not drinking competitions, cocktail making competitions.
Realistically, too, when we stream live on Twitch, we get a lot of donations, and those donations are specific to the goals that we set.
Yes.
So, we said the goal was going to be $200 to do this thing. We wound up getting $200.
We
At least half of that went towards booze on its own. So, it's definitely very fixated when it comes to those donations Robin was mentioning. Those help us on the back end with hosting fees and everything that we do have to buy. If anything goes wrong,
therapy.
We have to buy therapy. If anything goes wrong, we have to buy new equipment, things
Night
like
lights.
that. It sincerely helps. So thank you to everyone who does donate. And even if you don't donate, thank you so much to listen. Thank you so much for listening.
And
we sincerely appreciate
sharing us
it.
with your family and friends.
Yeah, it is so important to do word of mouth because it definitely helps us grow. But overall, I think that's everything we have for this episode. It's been a blast.
Please don't be too scared like me.
Hopefully you're not. And engage with us. Let us know what you thought of those EVPs and if you thought you heard what you were supposed to hear, if you thought you heard something different. But that is everything we have. So, Robin, why don't you go ahead and sign us out?
Keep on creeping on, not too much, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Talk to you guys later.